Oh, hey everybody, how you doing? What a lovely evening we're having out here in glorious Western Washington. I wanted to do a quick video on what I would consider to be the best beginner plant in the entire hobby other than moss. I think the debate has come up recently whether moss or Anubias is the best beginner plant. I think it's kind of a coin flip, but I would personally put Anubias because of so many upsides to it as opposed to moss. Now this is a 120-gallon aquarium with a lot of bamboo shrimp. I got a couple rummy-nosed tetra and some snails and things going on in here. Currently moving a whole bunch of rummy-nosed tetras in here. And but this tank is 99% Anubias. There is a little bit of moss on accident that has actually made its way into this tank. And is it my fault? Yeah, but I'm gonna let it grow out. And then the one intentional other plant that is in here is the Physcidens moss. There's just a little bit in there. I want to tell you a quick story about Anubias Nana Petite. I think it was back in about 2007 I started seeing these little pictures popping up on the internet. Internet wasn't as good back then as it is now, but pictures were popping up on the internet of a really cool plant that is just mind-bendingly good looking. And I really was like, man, I gotta get my hands on some of that. And at the time, it was rarer than hen's teeth. You just did not find it. Now, I got super lucky in about the end of somewhere around 2008. I went to one of the reef stores that I normally went to, and they actually had one planted aquarium there that was sort of, I think it was the nephew's tank. I'm not 100% sure of exactly whose tank it was. It wasn't the owner's tank, but I think it was one of his nephews that worked there. And it was set in a completely weird spot, and I think it was just in the store just because it was in the store. It really wasn't a part of the store, but they had a giant piece of driftwood that had a monumentally huge piece of Nana Petite on it. It was huge. I went to the guy and I said, well, how much do you want for this plant? And he was like, oh, you know, like $10 and I'll cut some off for you. I was like, I don't think you understand. I want all of it. And he was like, oh, well, I'll just give all of it to you for $100. How about that? You know, at the time, it was kind of a insane deal. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yeah. You know, he was like, I don't really want that tank here anymore. And they'll just give me a good reason to take it down and do something else with it. I was like, okay. So I ended up with a bunch of Nana Petite that I didn't know what to do with. Now, that being said, I was super lucky because if you just basically do nothing with Anubias, it will just kind of hang out and occasionally send out a new leaf. The only downside to that is that it will get a lot of algae growing on it. So that would be the biggest downside to this plant to watch out for. But it will recover, and you can clean the leaves off if you do get a little bit of brown algae on them or something like that, which I do have right now, which admittedly is my own fault because I put two Fluval 3.0 lights on here. They're dialed way down though. I mean, they're down at like 15% or something like that. But two of them is too many for this tank. And one of them's gonna be moving off anyhow because it's going on a whole different aquarium. I just had it in the box and I just didn't want it to be in the box anymore, so I actually got it out and set it on there. And that's been the one downfall, a little too much light for this plant. So a little history on this plant. It comes from, it has spread around Africa. It's been fairly well known for over 150 years, I think. I think this one was originally identified somewhere in the mid 1800s. So it was found pretty early as far as exploration and the actual identifying of the plant, and botanists finding it many years ago and doing the drawings and the descriptions. Barteri is the main family, Nana is the varietal, and Petite is actually the size. So I do have some standard Nana in here, and I also have some Barteri in here. Another accompanying plant would be Coffeefolia, which is a really cool, that's going to be the bigger one that you're looking for. You get that one under pretty intense light and stuff like that, and it turns brown. It looks coffee bean colored. That's why it's called that. And I think if you mix and match just within the varietals and the size within Barteri, and maybe offset with some Coffeefolia, you can actually make a really cool aquascape that's super easy to take care of. Very much beginner. As long as you're above 72 degrees, you'll be fine. It doesn't require CO2, and as I mentioned before, you don't even want highlight with this plant because you're just going to end up growing algae on the leaves, because they do hang around for quite a long time. As far as fertilizers go, I just use a little bit of Easy Green in this. I use probably what I would consider about a 20% dosing. So this is 120 gallons with a 40-gallon sump. You know, so we have operating volume about 140 gallons. I'm doing one pump a week, like just a little tiny bit of fertilizer, and you'll be fine. The best way to propagate this plant is to actually do trimming and stuff, and I will have a trimming tutorial coming up, so if people are wondering about propagation and trimming and that kind of stuff, I do have a propagation video coming out, which I almost am intrigued to do live. So if people are excited about the possibility of a live trimming video, let me know, because I'm actually working up part of the live streams that I do. I'm going to start doing some live tutorials on not necessarily aquascaping, but building all of the little fine parts to aquascaping and kind of doing it live, so that you guys would get a real impression of how long it takes, and you could even possibly do it side by side. As far as maintaining algae and stuff like that, like I said, if you keep the lights dim and keep it simple, I think you're going to have a great success with this plant. Let's be honest here, guys. This aquascape is super basic and needs a lot of attention. But that's okay, because it is a lot of fun, and all the bamboo shrimp in here are super happy. And that's the whole reason for this aquarium in the first place. The bamboo shrimp. They're loving it. I definitely need to build them some newer spaces. But yeah, as you can see, I think just about anybody could put this aquarium together. Like, this really wouldn't take that much skill. Obviously, it's going to get a monumental refresh, and then people will be like, I can't do that, but don't worry. I'm going to walk you through it. Nana Petite, Nana Petite, whoa! Oh no, hair algae in my shot. I will post some links down below, and full disclosure on those, they are affiliate links. So if you click on those links and buy stuff, it's a way to support the channel, just so that you know. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think click like, subscribe, give me a shout down in the comments and say that you were here, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye. The tiny leaves on this sort of evoke a strange emotion in me, because my great-grandfather actually lived in California, in Anaheim, just not very far from Disneyland, actually, is where his house was. And he had a front lawn that was, still to this day, I don't know what it was, but it was these tiny little clover leaf type plant that he had mowed down into this really, fine carpet as his lawn. This reminds me of that. Whether this is an accurate representation of that or not, I don't know. But for whatever reason, whenever I see a lot of the Nana Petite in something, it just kind of makes me think about my great-grandfather's house. Human brains are weird, you know what I mean? It's just a little bit odd.